who works with him here in Kailicha, Luvuyo Rani. Thank you, Luvuyo. You're a hero at Sililo Uluto Technologies. And these two are partners, and Sililo, Luvuyo, you will be taking the place this morning. Now, as this goes, as usual, we will have about maybe 10, 15 minutes. About 10 minutes, Brian, 15 max from you, and certainly no more than 10 if it's all right, Luvuyo, so that we have a few minutes left for questions in this incredibly important field of mobile technology, how it applies to micro-franchising, how it helps development of micro-franchising by putting in your pocket, in your cell phone, all kinds of things that you need to run a business. Thank you.
Thank you, Mark. Great. It's been such a pleasure to be here with all of you these last few days. I've learned so much. Thank you for all your contributions, and it's an honor and a pleasure to be able to have a few minutes to speak with you about the work we're doing in mobiles and micro-franchise. I do work for Grameen Foundation. A little bit of background about Grameen Foundation. Our roots are with the Grameen Bank in Bangladesh, and we as the Grameen family firmly believe that credit is a human right. Credit has issues of risk management that are very real, but with credit being a human right, it's also a social justice issue for us, and we're very passionate about that. And the work of the Grameen Bank began back in 1976 with a small loan that Professor Muhammad Yunus made to a group of women. It was a total of $26 US, and it's grown considerably. Now there's more than 8 million clients in Bangladesh. They're loaning out over $100 million US every month in non-collateralized loans. 97% of them are women with a almost 98% repayment rate. So really the work of Professor Muhammad Yunus was to prove that the poor are bankable, that it does require different models to be able to reach the poor, but if you do it, you can do it sustainably, and you can do it in a way that is empowering. And for this work, he was awarded, him and the Grameen Bank were jointly awarded the 2006 Nobel Peace Prize. We as Grameen Foundation are a separate but related institution. We are a nonprofit organization based in the United States with offices here in Africa in Kenya, Uganda, and Ghana, hopefully soon in South Africa. In Asia, we have offices in the Philippines, Indonesia, India, and China, and in Latin America and Colombia. And so our approach is always to work with local partners. We never work on our own. We work with local partners to build sustainable solutions to alleviate poverty. And we do that using two primary methods. One is microfinance, which I think we're best known for. And the second is mobile technology. And that may seem a bit strange. Grameen is really not well known for mobile technology. And why did we get into mobile technology? And I think some of it is just the incredible, kind of staggering numbers around mobile technology. You know, there's 6.9 billion people in the world. There's a lot of us. But there's more than 5 billion mobile phones in the world. And the exciting thing to me is that 75% of those mobile phones are in the developing world. And if you look here in South Africa, these numbers are from 2009, right? So these are 2 years old. 49 million people, 46 million mobile phones. And so you can guarantee, if that was 2 years ago, that most likely there's more mobile phones than people in South Africa. And it's staggering, the opportunity, right? And when we think about it, honestly, this is the largest platform in human history. It's kind of hard to get our mind around that and what is possible. And like any platform, though, it really depends what we do with it. There's a lot we can do with mobile phones. We can play games. We can chat with our friends. And these are very important things. We should do these things. We should enjoy life. But also, mobile phones can be used well beyond these enjoyable things, beyond talk, as a potential business tool. Pretty much anything a computer can do, we can scale that down to a mobile phone. You know, and the great thing, you know, computers by nature don't have connectivity built in. You have to extend that. Mobile phones have computing power, they have memory, they have connectivity all built in. What can we do with them? Well, we can still communicate. I kind of forget sometimes that I can actually use my phone to make a phone call. But we can do that. But also, if you think about it as a business tool, managing inventory and deliveries, using it to manage point of sale, Some of my colleagues will be talking about some of the really exciting mobile payments opportunities that are available now, being able to pay vendors or franchisees using the mobile phone, receiving payments much more efficiently than we've been able to do in the past. You can manage your books. Something that I think is really important is gaining access to new information. Running a business is all about information, right? And really anything we do is all about information. And how well we do it is going to be based on the amount of information that we're getting. And so we've heard a lot about, there's so many interesting programs here in South Africa, but it does seem that it's somewhat mysterious to understand how to engage with those opportunities. And I think there's a real opportunity to pull together some of that content and deliver it through mobile phones so that it is more accessible to the people that need it most. You can access new training and mentoring, new business opportunities, and you can also market your products and services via mobile phones. Again, this is a communication tool. And thinking about business, extending that to micro-franchise, I think it's even more important in a lot of ways, because if you think about some of the challenges we've heard, let's take, for example, Honey Care Africa, our friend Madison. We'll pick on him for a moment. But he's got a big challenge in front of him. He's going to move from 1,500 beekeepers to hundreds of thousands of beekeepers. He's going to be managing a very widely distributed network of individuals, and somehow information has to be flowing both ways, from franchisor to franchisee. Now, it's hard to imagine that working without some kind of mobile technology solution. And with mobile technology, and what we've realized with the franchisor companies that we've created is that if we have our franchisees transacting on mobile phones, we have visibility into every single transaction they make. We know who's performing well, we know who's not performing well, which allows us as a franchisor to prioritize how we support our franchisees in the field. If people are not performing well, we make sure we send field officers to understand why. If people are performing well, we also send field officers to understand the best practices. So it just gives us a level of business intelligence that allows us as a franchisor to be very efficient and very effective, and ultimately that feeds into the profitability of the system. Now, all that said, as a technologist, I try to always use this quote because I want to sound like a rational human being. Technology is not going to solve all of our problems, right? And I really like this quote from Kentaro Toyama. He's a researcher at Stanford, and he had an article called "Can Technology End Poverty?" And his quote says, "Technology, no matter how well designed, is only a magnifier of human intent and capacity. It's not a substitute." And I think that's very, very important. Mobile technology can accelerate what we're doing. It can make it more efficient. It can allow us to be more profitable. But it's only going to take the human intent that we have and magnify it, amplify it. So what have we at Grameen Foundation done around micro-franchise and mobiles? We start with the general model. And so we started and we said, what does it take to run a business? And we came up with 3 core things. 1, it takes an idea or concept, and we've heard some great ideas from the business owners here. 2, it takes the skills and the confidence to follow through on that idea. And 3, something we've heard over and over, is the capital to be able to follow through on that idea. And so for us, whenever we develop a mobile-enabled micro-franchise, we make sure that we have all 3 of those things. And with that, we put together a business in a box. Ours tend to be very micro. In some cases, microfinance institutions don't want to engage with us because the loan size is so small. But typically, it's a mobile phone, it's the marketing materials that you need, the training materials that you need, everything you need in a business package to run the business. And we have a few different businesses, and I'll describe what a few of those are. But this is an example. This is Ibu Halima in Indonesia. I spend a lot of my time in Indonesia. I want to spend more of my time in South Africa. But she is one of our mobile micro-franchisees. She's running a very simple business, which is an airtime sales business. So what she's doing is she's working with our local social enterprise partner, who's the franchisor. She's the franchisee, and the franchisor is aggregating cell phone airtime from all 11 mobile operators in Indonesia. There's a lot of them. With that, they then give her access to that inventory. So she's also selling airtime from all 11 mobile operators to people in her community. She does all of this through her mobile phone. So she has an application on her mobile phone where she selects the units that she wants, which operator, which denomination. That goes to the franchisor. The franchisor then essentially does a just-in-time inventory, picks the denomination needed, and then sends that information to the customer. So it sends the airtime to the customer. So in that way, she's alleviated from doing any kind of inventory. She has just-in-time inventory from the franchisor, and she's able to run her business. Halima made about $1.80 a day before running this business. This added another $1.10 a day to her income, which for us is able to move her above the poverty line, which is exactly what we're trying to do. So we do engage with the base of the pyramid. It's a very relative term, but we do really engage with the poorest of the poor in our micro-franchise solutions. So what have we done over the years? The first generation of the micro-franchise solutions we had was, it was replicating a project in Bangladesh that had been very successful called the Village Phone. And the first business was essentially a mobile phone, a big Yagi antenna, the connector from the mobile phone to the Yagi antenna, a lead-acid car battery. Sorry for my solar friends in the audience, this was a long time ago. And essentially this business allowed them to run a public access phone facility. So they would rent the phone to people in their village. And that was our first business. We created a joint venture with MTN. So together as a small nonprofit, we convinced a big telco to create a joint venture company with us to be the franchisor. It was profitable within 2.5 years, recruited more than 25,000 of these agents, so they had a very broad-based network. And then we sold it back to MTN, and then we catalyzed another one in Rwanda, so we created another joint venture there with MTN, and so on. And so we've continued to make investments, build profitable social enterprise franchisors, exit those, and then create new ones. The second generation, as mobile phones started to proliferate, which is a great thing, the business for a lot of our ladies started to decline. And so because they were selling public access, they said, well, why don't we sell airtime to the people that now have mobile phones? That was the second generation. And now we're at the third generation where they're still doing some public access for people that don't have phones. Most all of them are selling airtime. But now we're developing applications and services on top of those mobile phones that can enable new lines of business as well. So over the years, we've recruited a lot of franchisees within the Grameen family. I highlight these numbers mostly just to say that these can be very highly scalable businesses. I mean, they're inherently built to be replicable and scalable. In Bangladesh, Grameen Telecom, over a 10-year period, recruited more than 300,000 of these village phone ladies who were micro-franchise operators in their communities. We as Grameen Foundation then catalyzed more than 25,000 village phone franchisees. And for 2 years, we've been launching franchisees that are using the mobile phone applications, and we have just over 8,000 franchisees in Indonesia using this as well. So what are we doing? In Indonesia, we're building a micro-franchise app store. So we're trying to rival the iPhone app store and the Google app store, the Nokia app store, with our micro app store that really does focus on the tools that are needed to build micro-franchise solutions. Airtime sales was our first. We're building out a whole series of applications. I'm happy to talk with folks about each one of those in more detail. And also, we'd be very happy to hear suggestions for applications you'd love to see in that suite. The good thing is our telecom partner in Indonesia has agreed to preload our app store on 2 million phones that are going out into the market over the next year. So we have 2 channels to market for our micro-franchise solutions. One is through our telco, through traditional distribution channels. And the second is through our social enterprise that works in the grassroots areas and the rural areas to recruit the poorest of the poor. And then the telco is reaching the more traditional urban, peri-urban markets with their distribution channels. What are some of the challenges we faced? One obvious challenge is literacy. It's something to keep in mind. We have developed mobile solutions in the past that have been purely voice-based. It's really important to understand if your target audience has functional literacy. The second is identifying relevant and actionable content. We've had cases in the past, like in Ghana, for instance, we have a mobile health project where we were getting great health information to poor women in the villages about nutrition for their children. But in some ways, if you're getting that information and you still don't have the money to act on that information, it's almost worse in a way. And so what we want to make sure we're doing is that we have a closed loop solution so that we're getting information to people that they can actually act on and is actually relevant for their situation. Also in the mobile space, you have to decide on a delivery method. If you're thinking about engaging in the mobile space, you've got one big choice, which is, do you want to create apps which are easier to use, but they have to be preloaded or downloaded onto devices? And that can be a big, big problem. Second, do you want to use SMS, which is great because it can go to any phone. It doesn't matter if they have a special phone with an app preloaded or downloaded. But the SMS services can be a little bit harder to use. I think we've all used SMS services where you're limited to 160 characters. It's hard to engage. And then it's easiest to develop for Android, iPhone, BlackBerry, but the cost of those devices is really prohibitive. Other key challenges, it costs us a lot to do this R&D, so we have to rely on philanthropy to do it. And then lastly, it does require a pretty complex partnership structure to roll these things out. We typically have a mobile operator partner. We'd love to work with Vodacom here in South Africa. But that's not something that's always easy to do. I think it takes us a long time to open those doors, and as a small nonprofit, it can take a long time. So all that said, I wanted to provide a pitch for a mobile solution that I actually have nothing to do with, but I actually have a lot of respect for, that I think is very actionable for folks in the audience. And it's a solution called Frontline SMS. And if you're looking to build a communication platform, you may be a franchisor communicating with franchisees. You may be like our friend Dan, who is managing a widely distributed network of people engaged in the informal sector. But if you're looking to build a bridge between yourself and a distributed network, this can be a great tool. It's free, it's open source, it's an SMS hub. You don't need an internet connection. All you need some kind of computer. It could be a laptop or a regular computer. You need a phone or a modem and a SIM card, and then that will actually build a two-way communication loop between you and your constituents. And so you can see a little bit of the software there, but it's really great. It allows you to do surveying, it allows you to really build these great communication loops, and again, it's free to get started with. And I went to their website last night to see if they're active here in South Africa, because they tend to promote the projects that are active. And they actually had 9 projects already in South Africa that they had listed. You see the things range from HIV/AIDS information to courses and job placement, trade union updates. The great thing about Frontline SMS, if you contact them, they'll put you in touch with these people that are already using it so they can tell you what's worked well, what hasn't, these kind of things. So, I understand a lot of the work we're doing at Grameen. I highlight it because we've been very diligent in trying to prove that the micro-franchise model can be profitable and can scale with the poorest. I realize that a lot of it is not super relevant to here in South Africa. Hopefully, if we can get the right partner structure, it can be more relevant. But I wanted to offer this Frontline SMS as a great way to get started in the process. Thanks.
Me over the rain in this lovely Cape Town weather. I'm not going to be too controversial, but I think there's plenty of scope for controversy around mobile. There's an enormous amount of hype around mobile banking, mobile payments, around terminology, and I think we need to level that hype because there's a fantastic tool with a sense of reality. I've got 2 slides to show you. The first one just telling you who I am, and if I can get to the next one, is about a story. As we all know, small business is the backbone of any economy. In South Africa, there are 6 million small businesses. And as somebody told me from one of the big banks, he said, "Brian, I don't know of a single big business that didn't start out as a little one." That's very true. We don't seem to have done a great job in South Africa of nurturing, building, and creating an entrepreneurial environment and a breeding ground for small businesses. So there's plenty of scope and plenty of opportunity. But I'd like to just relate to you a story that is a very real story and affects the lives of millions and millions of small business owners. The lady on the left there started a little business, and what it was getting cutouts from a factory She had one of those, looking around the audience, I don't know if any of you are old enough to remember those old Singer sewing machines that you wound by hand. And I know my mother had one that I think her grandmother had. And this young girl on the left, as you look at it, started her business with a Singer sewing machine by hand that she inherited from her grandmother when she was 16 years old. She progressed from this hand-wound sewing machine to an electric sewing machine, and she wanted to get a loan from a local MFI to get a more industrial capacity sewing machine. And the lady on the right is a loan officer, and I think you've heard enough about the way that the model works. They go and they visit the premises, and they need to understand a little bit about the business. And I actually went along with this loan officer to understand a little bit how their business model actually worked. I always forget the end part of the story. She did get the loan, okay, but that's not the moral of the story. This young girl, I know nothing about sewing. How many garments of clothing do you think she can put together in the course of a day? Any views? We're not going to spend a long time debating this. Well, I nearly fell off my chair, and I'm first to admit I know nothing about sewing. She puts together 1,200 garments per day. 1,200. I was so impressed, I went out and I bought her a Pepsi, because I've never seen productivity like that in my life. That is not the moral of the story either. The moral of the story is, for this young girl to make the repayment on her loan, she has to go to the MFI, the bank, to make the repayment, because she is not banked. She does not have a bank account. I know, because I happen to go with the loan officer, that the MFI is 45 minutes away from her place of business. Logic would say that it takes 45 minutes to get back. Do the maths as I'm taking you through this. And it happens to be a particularly busy MFI, and we timed it. We were there for 3 days. The average length of time a person stood in a queue was about 45 minutes. So 45 plus 45 plus 45, let's round it up, half a day of lost productivity. That's what it amounts to. And I ask you with tears in my eyes, how does she make that lost productivity up? And I remind you, ladies and gentlemen, that we are in 2011. This is not the Dark Ages. This is not the Middle Ages. This is insane. That's the only word I've got for it. Yet it affects the lives of millions and millions of small business owners and entrepreneurs. Mobile can assist, but it's a highly regulated entity if you want to make, or industry, quite rightly so. You're looking at people's money. The regulator, a very simple frame of mind. If you're going to make a payment or a transfer on this hand, you have to have a deposit on this hand. Very quickly, the only entities that are allowed to take and hold deposits in this country are banks. So you need to be a bank. I don't know if any of you have recently tried to open a bank account, but short of giving blood samples and DNA, it's not an easy process. So we've tried to come up with a system utilizing the power of technology that makes it easy to open a bank account. It's functional, it works on any phone, it works across any network, and a person can make their loan repayments from their place of business. They can use it to take payments from their customers, and it's a very cost-effective, simple, and easy-to-use system. We use the mobile, as was alluded to earlier, to manage our network of agents. We've got 7,500 agents all over the country, in helping them manage their businesses. Yes, we can use it for customers to do stock ordering, to do the payments, to do the reconciliation. So the power of the mobile is enormous. But the starting base where we're coming from is as a payment methodology. And that's really what we're very excited about. We're currently in 7 different countries, a client base pretty close to 10 million customers in all the countries in which we operate, focused very much on financial inclusion. It was said earlier that Mohammed Yunus says credit is a human right. Cyril Ramaphosa was very involved with us from a moral obligation and passion at that lower end of the market, believes that you cannot be an economic citizen. You cannot be an economic citizen without having a basic bank account. And he believes that that is a fundamental human right. Yet it's very sad in 2011 to find in South Africa that we've got 50% of the population in this country that does not have access to financial services. Africa, a continent of 1 billion people, we've got 700 million people that do not have access to financial services. And I will tell you in closing, it's impossible to build growing, vibrant economies and growing, vibrant businesses if people do not have access to a basic bank account and access to financial services. Mobile goes some of the way in providing a solution. Thank you.
Morning. For me, it's different. Uloiso just called me now and said to me I need to be here and present. But my name is Luvuyo, and my surname is Khani. I come from Silulo Uluto Technologies. I don't think so. It's a kind of a challenge to present something that you live and eat and sleep. So it's easy. You come and talk. Probably for 5 minutes, I talk about the story of Silulo Uluto before I talk about the importance of mobile and microfinance. Usilulo was started in Kailicha when I was a teacher in Kwamfundo, one of the schools in Harare, where I saw a need for teachers to use the technology. Because that time, the Department of Education was introducing outcome-based education, which means that teachers have to use computers as part of their tool in the classroom. So when I resigned, I use Kosa Baki as my office, which is the back boot of a course, going to every school and selling refurbished computers, second-hand computers. Teachers were saying that you are mad. You can't be a teacher and sell computers. Community in Kailicha, they were saying that I'm stealing computers in Kailicha and selling them back to them. And even my body, I had that time a big head and smaller kind of a body. No one take me serious. I said, no, take chances, man. You can't sell computers. So there was much more resistance around technology in our communities. I went and probably took 3 months. I realized that what we could do is to group people in Stockfell, teachers. So 6 of them, they come together every month, contribute 400 rand. Within 6 months, all of them have computers. And that I use it to other schools. You know, teachers, they tend to compete. Other school, and I started in primary schools. So I go to high school. That primary, they can't beat you. You need to buy computers. Then they were buying, and then my brother joined me. We become 3 of us. Other schools, they were taking us for very lovely and serious and taking that these are people from computer people. As we sell this computer through Stockfell, when you go back and to teachers, we find these computers like ornaments or a museum. They are there, no one is using it because they don't have a skill to use computers. And for us, it hit us because the children used to say that, Mama, you can't use computers. And we say we need to have internet cafe in Kailicha so that people can come to the internet cafe and use computers. They were building a mall, that Kailicha Mall. We applied, couldn't get it because we're blacklisted, no profile, nothing. In our bank, our names are, we're blacklisted. We can't even ask for a loan. We don't have any money. Until such time that we went to our supplier, the guy that we buy computers, said that we've been buying computer to you, loan us 10 computers and give us stock to start as a seed capital. He gave us, we put computers. We're hoping people will come and use computers. First month, 206, turnover 350. Expenses 12,000. For 6 months, people were red in our face. It was not a nice. The banks want to repossess the car and the house I'm staying. They want to take it over. 6 months, I went to radio station, local radio station in Zbonele, to have a slot and the ad. They ask 1 computer in exchange, which is barter system. Give them 1 computer, all those ones that were renting, 1 computer. They give us a slot. We went on the radio. We called people on Sunday to come and our store. On Monday, people were coming in the store. We realized that they can't differentiate between fax and email. Then there's a problem around we need to skill them. So in the internet cafe, we had now a training selling computers and the internet. How do we train them? We take one of local newspapers and put type. After I finish 10 rand, you've been trained. We don't know anything then around training. It was more, we know that they can't use computers. So the best thing, you take a newspaper and write it and type and save it. That's it. There's a training for that. Until the following year, 2007, started with a training. Proper, we find someone we employed, started with the training. Training changed our business. It makes us to be, I think, where we are today because of that training. I think something that it's a different. In all technology, they talk about mobile, internet penetration. If training is not there, people, they are not going to use that because they can't skill enough to use that. So the training for us, we have seen it, the importance. After we've trained, some of our students for 6 months, trained for 6 months, they could do themselves a CV, find employment, and come back and buy a computer to us, and come back buy his internet to us. I mean, today I can tell you, Usilulo's got probably 17 centers in the Western Cape alone, where we have a presence. We employed in the internet cafe and training alone 65 people working in the internet cafe full-time, training 20 trainers, 45 people that are consultants and center managers. We see 3 years back, the biggest competitor for us is not a guy like us in the street that will be competing to us. It's MTN, it's Vodacom. And the best thing is to partnership. Because one thing, they have everything, but one thing they cannot do it, they don't know the market. For no emerging market, you have to partner with the right partner. So we knock at Vodacom offices, working with Vodacom in terms of make sure that we're moving to mobile. Why? 90% of our people are using mobile. So even if we could train them, by the end of the day, we are missing an important part on the mobile. So we're partnering based off using the mobile. Finally, in 3 years' time, knocking Bikobarit, they realized that. And we partner. This year, we partner officially with Vodacom. What does it mean, the partnership with us and Vodacom? What does it mean in terms of the mobile? It means that now we, through franchising, we could in a position now employ about 80 of our students, 80 students. For a start, it's going to be national, but it started in Western Cape. 80 students working for us now. What they do, the student, they are selling airtime. They are doing umpes. They are selling electricity, doing reporting. They're doing Erika. In the street, in the corners, in the taxi rank, everywhere, you see them, red and blue. Blue is coming. Selling this. And the nice thing about Vodacom on that part, it's that these guys, they're the commission, nice commission. There's a basic amount that they're getting every month. Every starter pack that are selling, they're getting the amount of starter packs. Every M-Pesa, they're getting amount of M-Pesa. And for that matter, the M-Pesa we're using in our training. We're training around M-Pesa now. So people can now know, because they've seen the TV and this guy is driving, but they don't understand. So the training in terms of how the money transfer comes in. The biggest opportunity is on the microfinance. Those guys that are 80, some of them, they have to run their own business. In this past 3 months with this pilot project, we have seen that a day, one person do more than 1,000 airtime alone. A month do 250 activation of M-Pesa. So on this cell phone, model, it's on around the base. For us, as we partner with Vodacom, the possibility in terms of these guys to get that base. So if this person you register through yourself as M-Pesa and there's money transfer, you will get money instead of getting once-off money, because we won't address the issue of poverty, issue of entrepreneurship, issue of economic participation. But if that base that we're building, like we see Lulo, the base in Khayelitsha, part of the traders are benefiting long-term on that base. So this is what the biggest opportunity, that the concept, we franchise it so that we could make a proper business of these guys in terms of franchises. So that these guys, they can run their own thing. They could run even their internet cafe in Kuyasa with the mobile. So this is kind of what we see they've done. The next big thing, it's more on these guys. Yeah, time is okay. I think with all this partnership with Vodacom and all of this, it allows us to make sure that the job opportunities, the social impact, and also with the technologies, that we bridge those kind of digital divide. Thank you.
I'm going to give someone a hard time, actually. Yes, I'm Natasha and Matthews, and I'm an independent consultant, but mostly just mother and wife. So, Sean, I'm actually going to give you a little bit of a hard time, if that's okay. You mentioned the lady from Indonesia who was doing the airtime sales, and that her income moved from $1 a day to $2 a day, and that's what you wanted to do to lift her above the poverty line. So I know officially that's the UN definition, is $2 a day is, above the poverty line. But I want to ask you if you really think that's lifting above the poverty line when you think about work and the amount of time and effort that's involved with work and being away from your family and those kind of considerations. So I know that selling airtime is not so complicated, but yeah, maybe you could just answer if her quality of life has improved and if there's evidence of that by just adding another $1 a day.
No, it's a great question. I mean, when you think about $1 US, it's for us, it's not a lot of money. But I think for a lot of the businesses that we work with, most of them are household businesses, and for us, about 85% of our franchisees are women. And actually, quite a few of them are stay-at-home moms, and it changes their life in a couple ways. One is, for her, it did increase her income by about 60%. So having another $1 a day is significant for her. But I think, in terms of her confidence and her place in the household, it transformed it completely. She went from her husband's point of view, being someone that was staying at home and taking care of the child and had a certain role, to being an income earner, which also then gave her more of a voice in the way that the money was spent in the household. In fact, almost to the point where when we look at the women who drop out of our program, about a third of them drop out because their husbands tell them to stop running the business, mostly because they've been quite successful. So there is a cultural aspect to it that you may not run into here in South Africa as much as we do in Indonesia. But I think there is a pretty profound income effect. But I think it's that confidence, both in the household as well as a business owner, that's really the main effect. And we hope, obviously, that that's not where she stops. And typically, when they get very good at running the airtime business, they're the ones pushing us to say, "What can I do next? This is great. Like, I'm really excited." So we do see that confidence building, and we do see it as a pathway to more. But I think it's a good starting place for them. Yeah.
My question is Kabelo Kale from Keys Communications. I think in the last 3 days, what I've heard is all these wonderful products that are available to the township market, and all these lovely communities, especially now in Khayelitsha, and obviously Gugulethu and everywhere else in South Africa. And it dawned on me that I don't think quite a lot of people know about all these great offerings that we have, which basically means that you obviously have to create awareness and tell the beneficiaries of this beautiful products that you have about your beautiful products that you have. Now, do you have any advertising budgets And how are you planning to raise awareness into the townships about your products? And obviously, will you use Keys Communications for your efforts? And how are you planning to do that? I've got my business cards and I'm sure we can talk, but just, give us...
Yeah, I mean, I can answer it, and I'll certainly give you my card. As a small entity, I think, and many of you as small business owners will appreciate the fact that, yes, there's a cost of marketing. Beyond that, for an entity such as ourselves, which is one of the newer entrants into the banking space, it's an incredibly competitive environment, and it's very much like the ant taking on the elephant. And some of you might remember, because it launched in Cape Town, there was an entity some years ago, the first internet banking company that started, that put billboards all over town that said, "Banks are dead, long live banking." And one of the CEOs of the big banks came to me one day and said, "We will bury them." 6 months later, that company didn't exist. So we are very wary of the power of those big banks. And you don't necessarily want to take on the elephant when you are the ants, and you need to do it very carefully, despite the fact that this is an opportunity. Second issue that we've faced, and it's a criticism against the marketing agencies generally in this country, is that their knowledge and understanding, particularly of the lower end of the market, is not much better than mine, and that's dangerous. And so there's a great opportunity for people such as yourselves, and I'm not trying to give you a punt, I've never met you in my life, but who's got great knowledge and understanding, because I think that the traditional marketing methods to get to the upper income groups are very different of necessity. So we've relied on word of mouth up until this stage and viral marketing.
It speaks to the power and the muscle of the telcos in some ways. They do have a huge marketing capability. And so for us, we don't have a big marketing budget, but that's why we partner with telcos who really can get the word out. The challenge, though, is that it only goes so far. And so it doesn't really reach the base of the pyramid where we're really trying to reach. And so that is a huge problem for us. And we're actually thinking, like, can we create a franchise for someone who just purely recruits? That's their job, is to be out there just marketing these services, and they get a fee for activation, similar to like M-Pesa, for example, where they'll pay you for just bringing someone into the service. But it's a huge problem. And we'd love to use your services if you can fly to Asia.
Painting walls as advertisements, he's actually has a method of kind of guerrilla marketing into the markets that all of these large companies have had difficulty reaching. And so companies like Wizit, which are the ants against the M-Pesas of the world, may well be, you have an opportunity to just use someone like this and get a leap into that market before the big guys even know what's hit them. So I think that was what we were talking about in our workshops. And I know there's a question over here.
Roxanne Siyabonga, Africa. Just a quick question. I'm new to this M-Pesa Flash innovation technology. I've just learned about it this week at this conference. I find it a little bit confusing. On one hand, we're crying that half of Africa, or 70% was mentioned, is unbanked, and we need to get them banked, and it was mentioned that it's a civil right to have a bank account. Surely these M-Pesa and Flash devices are preventing people from banking. Why would you go and open a bank account if you can just M-Pesa and Flash at the taxi rake? So surely the big banks should take note of this and get their own kind of cell phone banking jacked up, and maybe do a bit of financial literacy training to the people that are using these products so they can capture that market. I just don't understand why we're replicating the wheel.
Okay. Can I try Flash, because it's no, it's fine. M-Pesa and Wizit launched at the same time. M-Pesa taking its foothold in Kenya. The big difference, M-Pesa is about mobile payments, Wizit's about mobile banking. And there is a big difference between the two. In Kenya, M-Pesa has been enormously successful as a payments channel, a friendly regulatory environment, a great opportunity. In other parts of the world, perhaps not quite so friendly a regulator, and different laws around the banking, so different challenges facing them, and I'm sure Vodacom can answer for themselves around M-Pesa and the challenges they faced in South Africa. So yes, it is an opportunity for the banks. As you would all know, I don't know of anything in life, and you can talk about politicians, religious leaders, movie stars, pop stars, authors, whatever you want, that haven't succeeded without two critical ingredients: passion and enthusiasm. You can have everything else in the world, but if you don't have passion and enthusiasm, you're not going to succeed. I'm yet to be convinced how much passion and enthusiasm the big banks have for that lower end of the market. It's not a criticism. It's purely to say, common sense says, and I don't know a single organization on this planet that has succeeded being all things to all people. So can a bank be everything to everybody from the top to the bottom? I have my doubts.
Well, on the M-Pesa part, if you look at ShopRite in the past 5 years, they've done very well. I think one of the contributor is money transfer, because you deposit money for someone who's in the Eastern Cape, and that person will take 100 rand and take that 100 rand and buy it milli and sugar in ShopRite, of which it's done very well. If you look at M-Pesa, it says that you don't need to go and queue to ShopRite. You can do it at home, where you transfer money to other person. Maybe partnering with NetBank, it's more to expose to the bank. But the M-Pesa is only money transfer. So you can transfer money from here to other person, so that person can able to have the money using the mobile.
It should actually have been Dan asking this question that morning. My name is Jacob van der Westhuizen from LegalWise. Something for Brian. I work for a brand that over 27 years and 3.5 million policyholders later have a 100% track record in bloodying the noses of the big five banks on behalf of our policyholders. We have never lost against the bank, and we've cost the bastards millions of rands to be repaid to our policyholders. So what I want to know from you is exactly how it works. Is an alternative to having an account with one of the big five banks? And just expand on that, because it sounds as if you may have a solution that very few people know about.
Okay, very briefly, it's a fully functional bank account. Our primary channel is the mobile, that you can do remote payments, balance inquiries, get mini statements. You get a debit card that you can use at any ATM, any point of sale device. Our clients qualify for loans. We've got savings products. We've got embedded funeral policies. So the road to financial access, much like a ladder, not like switching on a light switch, from a transactional basis to savings products to loan products, both personal and business loans, but all based on building a track record from a basic bank account. So that in a nutshell.
Thank you very much. It sounds like, in fact, it is an alternative to a full bank.
It is.
Okay, that's fantastic news. These four gentlemen, I hope, will be staying for our workshop sessions. Please ask them questions. We need to break now to get started into our workshop sessions, which are on microfinance, focusing on microfinance this morning. Please, the companies go to their same tables. The facilitators, I think, to yesterday's tables, and the scribes. Don't, just please, Helen, if you have some. And while Helen's getting to the stage, I want to thank you all for your fantastic presentations, and thank you very much for Vodacom for being present.
The facilitators have been swapped again because we're a couple short. So we've had to do some juggling. The lists are at the back. The scribes to the same table, businesses to the same table. Everyone else, the lists are at the back. You've all been jumbled again. Thanks.
And we support a national network of savings and loans groups. So basically we work with rural and urban communities, big focus on informal communities that mobilize around their own resources. And I'm responsible for their livelihood initiatives, which is how I find myself here today. Our organization, our head office is in Mowbray. We have satellite offices in Durban and Joburg, and then the network we support, which is called Federation of Urban and Rural Poor, is a national organization, and in fact affiliated to the global movement known as Shack Dwellers International. So that's me. This table before, so if Roxanne.
Hello everybody. My name is Tembeka Fukus. I'm from here, Kaili Society. I'm coming from the organization called Peace Action Association for Children and Youth. what we do at Peace THM, we do aftercare. And we also apply for the grants for the children who need grants. We do referrals. And we also do HIV and AIDS. We've got a soup kitchen. And we do substance abuse.